I should have seen it coming when they replaced my handwritten client notes with a CRM system that couldn't spell my biggest client's name right. Your methods are too traditional for our new direction, he explained during my termination. We need AI-first leadership. My name is Daniel Brooks. For 12 years, I ran the Southeast Sales Division of Meridian Literary Group in Charlotte. I built that team from 3 people, turning a struggling territory into the company's top revenue generator. I didn't use fancy algorithms or predictive analytics, just relationships, handshakes, and knowing which publishers needed what. By last year, my division was bringing in 55% of the entire company's revenue. Not that anyone at the executive level seemed to notice until the quarterly reports landed on their desks. When Bradley Morrison took over as CEO 4 months ago, he arrived with PowerPoint presentations and McKinsey consultants in expensive suits. Every meeting became about AI-driven transformation and disrupting the traditional publishing model. He'd never worked in publishing before, came from some fintech startup in Austin, but the board loved his vision. I kept my head down, kept delivering results, but I could feel his eyes on me during leadership meetings. I was the oldest director there, the only one who still kept a leather agenda and visited clients in person instead of scheduling video calls. The summons came on a Wednesday afternoon. His assistant Sophie looked uncomfortable when she appeared at my office door. She'd like to see you at 3:30 in the collaboration pod. I thanked her and returned to my call with Hayes Publishing House, our biggest client. We were finalizing a proposal worth $18 million, the kind of deal that happened because I'd had dinner with Victoria Hayes every quarter for 8 years. The collaboration pod had been redesigned since Brad arrived. Standing desks, smart boards, a massive digital display where the traditional conference table used to be. 3 people waited, Brad, Sophie, and someone from people operations I didn't recognize. I knew before he spoke. "Daniel, thank you for everything you've done for Meridian," he began, hands clasped on the standing desk. "But we've decided to move in a different direction with leadership." I listened quietly as he explained how my methods were outdated, how they needed someone more aligned with their AI-first approach. Someone younger, though he carefully avoided saying that part out loud. I thanked him for the opportunity, shook his hand, and walked out without arguing. 12 years ended in an 18-minute meeting. What Brad didn't understand was that in publishing, especially with the old established houses that made up 80% of our business, trust wasn't built through algorithms or email campaigns. I cleared out my desk while the rest of the team was at lunch. No goodbyes, no scene, just quiet dignity. But when I got to my Tesla, I sat there for a long time staring at my phone. 5 WhatsApp notifications from Victoria Hayes. She'd heard already. I started at Meridian, back when it was still called Carolina Literary Collective. Small operation then, just 15 employees and a handful of regional clients. I'd come from Heritage Books after they were bought out by one of the big New York houses. I'd walked away from a corner office and a 6-figure salary because I hated what corporate publishing was doing to the industry. Robert Meridian hired me personally. "We don't need someone who can crunch numbers," he'd said. "We need someone who understands that literature is the bridge between authors and readers, not data points." For the first 5 years, I rebuilt the division from scratch. Put 70,000 miles on my car visiting every independent publisher between South Carolina and Florida. I knew the names of their spouses, their kids. I went to weddings, funerals, retirement parties. Not because it was strategic, because that's who we were. By the time Robert retired and his son Jonathan took over, we'd grown 320%. Jonathan understood the business, even if he was more interested in the numbers than his father had been. He left me alone to run things my way. 2 years ago, when the board started talking about bringing in Deloitte Consulting to modernize operations, Jonathan fought them. But when a car accident took him last year at 54, there was no one left to defend the old ways. The cracks started appearing before Brad was even hired. Board meetings where the word antiquated kept coming up. Questions about why our team hadn't leveraged machine learning or implemented CRM optimization. Amanda, my assistant director who I'd been grooming to take over one day, started getting invitations to strategy meetings I wasn't included in. She'd report back, uncomfortable with her new position as messenger. "They're talking about restructuring," she'd told me 4 months ago. "Creating a digital sales team separate from traditional channels." I should have seen it coming. Should have noticed when they hired 3 new data scientists and put them on my team without consulting me. or when they started reassigning my long-term clients to the new relationship optimization system without explanation. Victoria Hayes had called me personally when they took her account away from me. "Some kid called me today," she'd said. Told me he was my new account manager. Said they were streamlining their customer interface or some bullshit. "What's going on over there, Daniel?" "Just some reorganization," I told her. "Nothing to worry about." But I was worried. I just didn't know how to fight a battle when I didn't understand the weapons being used against me. The day after my termination, I sat in my home office staring at my phone. 23 missed calls, 47 text messages, 9 emails marked high priority. All from clients and industry contacts who'd heard the news. I hadn't told anyone yet, not even my wife Rachel, who was visiting our son in Atlanta. I wanted to process it alone first. The call that finally made me pick up came from Victoria Hayes. "Daniel, what's happening over there?" she demanded, skipping any greeting. "They're going in a new direction," I said, repeating the corporate line. Victoria sounded frustrated. "You are that company to most of us. Do they understand that?" I didn't answer. "I met with that new guy yesterday," she continued. "Kid spent 40 minutes showing me analytics and engagement metrics. Not once did he ask about our new historical fiction imprint, the one I told you was make or break for us this year." I closed my eyes, suddenly tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. "They'll figure it out, Victoria." "No, they won't," she replied. "Because people like that never bother to learn what matters. They just impose their system and expect everyone to adapt." After we hung up, I opened my laptop and looked at the email Meridian HR had sent with my severance details. 6 months' pay, health insurance for 90 days, a non-disparagement clause, and a non-compete that prevented me from working with any of our clients for 1 year. I nearly laughed. They thought they could legally prevent decades-old relationships from continuing with a single document. My phone buzzed again. Michael Turner from North Shore Literary this time. Another major client, another friendship built over years of trust. "I heard what happened," he said when I answered. "It's their loss. When you're ready to talk about what's next, call me." By evening, I'd heard from 12 major clients representing over 40% of Meridian's annual revenue, all expressing the same sentiment, loyalty to me, not to the company I'd no longer be part of. I sat in my backyard as the sun set, nursing a bourbon and turning over an idea that had started as a tiny seed that morning, but had grown with each conversation. They discarded me because my methods didn't fit their shiny new AI strategy. Because I built relationships instead of analyzing data. Because my client book was filled with handwritten notes instead of CRM entries. But what if those outdated methods were exactly what those clients valued? What if the very thing Brad Morrison saw as my weakness was actually my greatest strength? I pulled out my phone and made a call to my attorney, Catherine Rodriguez. "Kate, I need you to look at something for me." "A non-compete clause." "They let you go?" she asked, surprised. "They did. And I think it might be the best thing that's ever happened to me. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to keep doing what I'd always done, helping publishers connect with the right partners. And if Meridian no longer valued that service, there were plenty of others who did." That night, for the first time since the termination meeting, I slept soundly. 10 days after my termination, I met with Catherine in her downtown office. She'd reviewed my non-compete agreement and had news I didn't expect. "It's overly restrictive and likely invalid," she said, sliding the document across her desk. "They made a crucial mistake. The scope is too broad, the duration too long, and most importantly, they can't prevent you from using general knowledge and skills in your industry." "So I could start my own consulting firm?" I asked. "You could," Catherine nodded. "But there's a catch. They'll still sue you if you try, even if they ultimately lose. They can make the process expensive and painful." I considered this. Meridian had deep pockets and a board that wouldn't hesitate to use them against a perceived threat. "What if I don't approach any clients directly?" I asked. "What if I just become available?" Catherine smiled. "That's a different story entirely." The next day, I filed paperwork to establish Brooks Literary Consultants. No website, no marketing materials, no outreach campaign. Just a legal entity that could accept payments and provide services. 3 days later, Victoria Hayes called me. "I hear you've set up shop," she said without preamble. "News travels fast," I replied. "In this business like wildfire. Listen, I need help with our winter catalog strategy. Meridian's new team is pushing us toward academic markets, but my instinct says we should double down on our historical series. I need someone who understands both the numbers and the readers. I'm still figuring out my next steps, Victoria. $22,000 for 3 months of strategic guidance, she countered. No direct competition with Meridian Services, just helping us make good decisions. It was a generous offer, carefully structured to avoid direct conflict with my non-compete. But still I hesitated. I need to think about it. Don't think too long, Victoria said. We're making decisions next week. After hanging up, I received an unexpected call from Amanda, my former assistant director. Can we meet? She asked, her voice hushed. Not at the office. Someplace quiet. We agreed on a small bookstore cafe in South End, well away from downtown and the publishing scene. Amanda looked nervous when she arrived, constantly checking over her shoulder. It's bad, she said once we'd secured a corner table. They promoted me to your position, but I'm just a figurehead. All the real decisions are coming from the new data science team. That's not surprising, I replied. No, you don't understand. They're systematically dismantling everything you built. They've reassigned all your major accounts to the optimization system. They're implementing a mandatory CRM that none of the older sales reps can navigate. 5 people have quit already. I took a sip of my coffee, keeping my expression neutral. And the clients? Amanda glanced around again before leaning in. They're furious. North Shore is threatening to walk. Victoria Hayes hasn't returned calls in a week. The Q3 projections are catastrophic, and Brad's blaming the transition, saying it's expected turbulence. She hesitated, but there's more. They're watching you. Legal had a meeting about your non-compete yesterday. They're concerned you might poach clients. Now I understood her paranoia. She was risking her new position to warn me. Thanks for telling me this, Amanda. She nodded, then slid a USB drive across the table. Client contact list, updated with personal emails and cell numbers. She stood to leave. I didn't give you this, and we never met today. After she left, I sat for a long time, turning the USB drive over in my hands. Using this information would be exactly what Meridian feared and expected. It would justify legal action against me, possibly even against Amanda. They'd set a trap, anticipating my next move, which meant I needed to make a different one entirely. I left the USB drive on the table when I walked out. A month passed. I hadn't contacted any Meridian clients, despite daily calls from publishers asking for help. I deflected politely, citing professional considerations. The non-compete might be flawed, but I wasn't ready to test its limits. Instead, I focused on industry contacts outside Meridian's client list. Small independent publishers, university presses, literary agents looking for guidance. Work that wouldn't trigger legal issues but would keep me engaged in the field I loved. Then came the invitation I hadn't expected. Margaret Whitmore, chairman of Meridian's board, asked to meet privately, not at the office, at her club downtown. I accepted out of curiosity more than anything else. The Charlotte Country Club was all dark wood and whispered conversations. Margaret, 68 and wearing gold-rimmed glasses, waited in a private dining room with 2 glasses of wine already poured. Thank you for coming, Daniel, she said, gesturing to the chair opposite hers. I imagine you're wondering why I wanted to meet. The thought had crossed my mind. She pushed one of the glasses toward me. Things at Meridian aren't going as expected. I took a small sip, saying nothing. Revenue is down 42% this quarter, Margaret continued. Client retention has fallen to its lowest point in company history. The AI initiative that was supposed to transform our business model has instead alienated our core client base. That's unfortunate, I replied neutrally. Margaret studied me. You don't seem surprised. Publishing is a relationship business. Always has been. So I'm learning. She leaned forward. The board is concerned about Brad's leadership. His strategies may have worked in fintech, but publishing operates differently. Why are you telling me this? Because we'd like you to come back. As Chief Strategy Officer, reporting directly to the board, above Brad in the hierarchy. I stared at her, processing the offer. What about my replacement? Amanda's a good person, but she doesn't have your client relationships or industry knowledge. And Brad, he'd accept this arrangement. Margaret's expression hardened. He would have no choice. The pieces suddenly fit together. This wasn't about this quarter's revenue. This had been building for longer. Brad was Jonathan's hire, wasn't it? His last major decision before the accident. Margaret sighed, the facade cracking. The board had reservations, but we deferred to him out of respect. After he passed, we gave Brad the opportunity to prove himself. He hasn't. And my termination wasn't approved by the board? We were informed after the fact. As were several other significant organizational changes. I sat back, understanding the full picture now. Brad had been clearing out Jonathan's people, replacing them with his own. My dismissal wasn't about AI transformation. It was about removing anyone loyal to the previous leadership. The offer is generous, Margaret continued. Double your previous salary, full control of sales and client relationships, and the board's full backing to rebuild your team. It was everything I should have wanted. Vindication, power, security. I need time to consider, I said. Of course, but don't take too long. The situation is deteriorating rapidly. On the drive home, I turned the conversation over in my mind. The board hadn't just realized they'd made a mistake with my termination. They'd known it was wrong from the beginning, but had lacked the courage to stop it. Now that it was affecting their bottom line, suddenly they wanted me back. And there was something else. Something Margaret hadn't said explicitly, but I'd understood anyway. They wanted me to be the hatchet man, to come back and dismantle everything Brad had built. And eventually, Brad himself. They didn't want me for my relationship skills. They wanted me for my client list and the loyalty that came with it. The realization didn't make me angry. It made me certain about what I needed to do next. I declined Margaret's offer the next morning with a brief, polite email. Her response came within minutes, an offer to increase the compensation package further. I didn't reply. Instead, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to Victoria Hayes. I'm ready to discuss that consulting arrangement, I told her. But I'd like to suggest a different approach. I'm listening, she said. I won't consult exclusively for Hayes Publishing. Instead, I'm forming a collective, a cooperative of independent publishers who share resources, distribution channels, and market intelligence. No long-term contracts, no corporate bureaucracy, just publishers helping publishers, with me facilitating the connections. There was silence on the line. Then, how many others have you approached? None yet. You're the first call. Why me? Because I trust your judgment, I corrected. If you think it's a viable model, I'll move forward. If not, I'll stick to traditional consulting. Victoria didn't hesitate. I'm in, and I know at least 5 others who would be too. My second call was to Michael Turner at North Shore Literary. As I expected, he not only embraced the collective idea, but suggested refinements to the structure, including a shared digital platform that would give the smaller publishers the reach of a larger organization without sacrificing their independence. The third call was to Catherine, my attorney, to ensure the plan wouldn't violate my non-compete agreement. You're not working for their clients, she confirmed after hearing the details. You're creating an entirely new entity that their clients choose to join. It's a subtle distinction, but a legally meaningful one. Within 2 weeks, Brooks Literary Collective had 5 founding members, all former Meridian clients who had either already left or were planning to when their contracts expired. Each contributed to an operational fund that would cover my salary and the basic infrastructure needed. The key to the plan wasn't just building a competing organization. It was creating something Meridian couldn't easily replicate, a cooperative structure where publishers maintained their independence while gaining the benefits of collective resources. No one appointed me CEO or gave me a fancy title. I was simply the facilitator, the connector who understood what each member needed and who could provide it. We rented a modest office space in the Noda district, away from the downtown business district where Meridian and other corporate publishers clustered. I hired 2 staff members, a recent college graduate to handle communications and social media, and a veteran publishing operations manager who had recently retired but wasn't ready to stop working entirely. Word spread quickly through the close-knit publishing community. By the end of the first month, 4 more publishers had joined the collective. By the end of the second, we had to expand to the second floor of the warehouse. I was careful never to directly solicit Meridian's clients. I didn't need to. They came to us, drawn by the success stories they were hearing and the frustrations they were experiencing with the AI-first approach that ignored the personal relationships at the heart of publishing. Amanda called one evening in late August, 2 months after we'd launched. They know what you're doing, she said without preamble. Brad's furious. He's talking about legal action. We haven't violated any agreements, I replied calmly. That won't stop him from trying. She paused. There's a board meeting tomorrow. Quarterly results. It's going to be ugly. That's not my concern anymore, Amanda. I know, but she hesitated. I thought you should know. And I wanted to ask, is there room for one more at your new venture? I've reached my breaking point here. I smiled to myself. Everything was proceeding exactly as I had anticipated. Not because I was seeking revenge, but because I understood the industry in a way Brad never would. Come by the office tomorrow, I told her. We'll talk. The quarterly earnings call in September told the story I'd expected. Meridian Literary Group reported a 52% drop in revenue compared to the same quarter the previous year. Their stock dropped 20% in a single day. I didn't listen to the call myself. I was in a strategy meeting with 15 collective members, planning our approach to the upcoming industry conference in Chicago. But Michael texted me the highlights, Brad blaming market disruption and transitional challenges. No mention of the elephant in the room that their biggest clients had jumped ship. Later that afternoon, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Is this Daniel Brooks? A woman's voice asked. Speaking. This is Patricia Harrington from the Meridian Legal Department. I'm calling to inform you that we've voted to waive your non-compete agreement, effective immediately. We've also authorized our legal team to prepare a cease and desist regarding what we consider interference with our client relationships. I waited, letting the silence stretch. Do you have any response, Mr. Brooks? Just one question, I said finally. Have you spoken with your clients directly? Not through account managers or satisfaction surveys. Actually sat down with Victoria Hayes or Michael Turner and asked why they left. That's not relevant to... It's the only thing that's relevant, I interrupted. They didn't leave because I started something new. They left because Meridian stopped valuing what mattered to them. The board meeting is still in session, she said after a moment. Perhaps you'd care to join us and explain your perspective directly? I appreciate the invitation, but I'm in the middle of my own meeting with 15 publishers who've chosen a different path. She was silent for so long I thought the call had dropped. I see, she said finally, and hung up. The cease and desist never arrived. 3 days later, the business section of the Charlotte Observer ran the headline, Meridian Literary CEO steps down amid financial turbulence. 8 months after starting the Brooks Literary Collective, we moved into permanent offices, the entire renovated warehouse complex in Noda. 19 member publishers now, with a waiting list of others wanting to join. We'd expanded beyond the Carolinas to include small and mid-sized publishers throughout the Southeast. The industry had taken notice. We'd been featured in Publishers Weekly and the Wall Street Journal business section. The collective revolution in publishing, one headline called it. I hadn't set out to create a movement, just to preserve what I knew worked. But sometimes the old ways become revolutionary again when people remember why they mattered in the first place. Margaret Whitmore called on a Tuesday morning. Meridian had a new CEO now, promoted from within, someone who'd been with the company for decades. We'd like to discuss the possibility of Meridian joining your collective, she said. No preamble, I smiled to myself. That's not how it works, Margaret. We're not acquiring members of your size. Perhaps a partnership arrangement then. I'll bring it to our leadership council, I told her, though I already knew what the answer would be. The publishers who joined us had done so precisely to escape the corporate approach Meridian represented. After hanging up, I walked through our open office space. No executive suite for me, just a desk among the others where I could be part of the daily conversations that kept us connected to what mattered. Amanda looked up from her workstation. Everything okay? Just fine, I nodded. Meridian wants to join the collective. She laughed. Talk about coming full circle. Later that afternoon, I drove to Lake Norman and sat by the water, the same spot where I used to come and think when problems at Meridian seemed overwhelming. But today there were no problems to solve. Just a quiet satisfaction in knowing that what I'd built would last. Not because it was revolutionary or disruptive, but because it was built on something that never really changes. People trusting people who've earned it. Sometimes getting fired is the best thing that can happen to you. Not because it leads to revenge, but because it forces you to build something more authentic than what you left behind. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe to check out more stories on my channel,